Hey, everybody. Welcome to Texas 3-Step, now sponsored by Texas Sports Life. This is episode 2, coming out on August 5th. We've got a great show ahead, guys. So, Tyler, tell us what's going to happen.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting things. We're going to talk about the NBA's final teams battling it out for the final spot. We're going to talk about, in college football, Pac-12 players holding out. And then we're going to talk about Yoenis Céspedes saying, I'm going to head out when he was opting out. Among other things we're going to talk about tonight. Cody, you going to start us off with some NBA?
Yeah, let's talk about what's happening out west. There's a pretty good battle going on for the 8th and 9th seeds right now. Right now, the Grizzlies, as of this podcast, have a 1.5 lead over the Spurs and Pelicans. I think the Spurs lost, so they may be down, 2 games now. But that would make the Pelicans the second team, and they have an interesting schedule ahead of them. Because they beat Memphis tonight, then they play Sacramento, Washington, San Antonio, Sacramento again, and Orlando. So the Pelicans could actually sneak into that 8th seed, but with the playoff rules this year, 8th and 9th have to play, I believe, if they're within 4 games of each other.
Yeah, so let me run down kind of how the system works, because it's a little funky, but so if teams get within 4 games, if the 9th seed gets within 4 games of the 8th seed, when these 8 games are done, they will have 1 playing game. If the 9th seed wins, then they'll have a second playing game. But if the 8th seed wins the first game, then it'll be over and the 8th seed will be into the tournament. It's a really funky dynamic for sure, but really, if you look at it, the West, they have, I think, 4 teams right now competing for that 9th spot, and they're right on the edge of that 8th spot. We have the Spurs, the Blazers, the Pelicans, the Kings, 5 teams, and the Suns on the outside, and then we have the Grizzlies on that 8th seed. And then on the other side, in the Eastern Conference, we just have the Wizards trying to play within 4 games of the Brooklyn Nets. So it's a race right now to kind of keep winning games and keep staying alive. It's definitely interesting. You know, Cody, I thought this kind of reminded me of, and I wonder if you feel the same way. This reminds me a lot of like college basketball conference tournaments right before the March Madness. Like it has that level of competitiveness where they have to win their games, but they can kind of lose some too. Like it's not like they lose and they're outs, but there's definitely a sense of urgency for them to try to win as many games as they can in this 8-game stretch and try to get the best position that they can.
Yeah, I think it feels a lot like that for a bunch of teams. And some of the teams have like a lot easier schedules than others. Like the Pelicans, they have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. They don't play any of the top tier teams in the East or West. They're mostly playing like teams that are currently out of the playoff, or teams that are the 7th seed or lower in, I think, both conferences. The Grizzlies have kind of a tough schedule. Oklahoma City and Utah. They have Oklahoma City, Utah, Boston. That's actually really tough. The Spurs have a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way. Like they have I believe they lost to the 76ers tonight. That game was still going on last I checked.
And for the fans, we're recording this on Monday night, so it will obviously be a little different when the podcast comes out on Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. Some of these teams we're talking about could be eliminated by the time you're listening to this, but the Spurs play their next few games are Denver, Utah, who are both over 10 games in front of them, New Orleans, and then Houston and Utah again, both of which are 10 games or more in front of them. The Portland Trailblazers, we talked about them last time as a bit of a dark horse.
Game time.
Yeah. Lillard's going to have a lot of work cut out for him. They play Houston, Denver, the Clippers, the 76ers, the Mavs, and Brooklyn. So it's going to be an uphill climb for them to get back in it. Right now, they're 2 games out of the
Let me ask you, who do you think has the easiest road going forward?
I think it's the Pelicans by far.
So you're saying there's a chance we might get LeBron against Zion in the first round?
Unfortunately.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance. Yeah, I think obviously like things are going to change, and they have been shifting a lot lately. I would love to see Portland or the Spurs try to make those spots, because they're veteran teams. They would actually challenge Lakers a little bit more. But obviously, I'd love to see Zion and that young squad play the Lakers too. That'd be
I would love
exciting.
to see Lonzo play the Lakers.
I would love to see just all those former Laker guys going against the Lakers.
I just want to see
how that dynamic is.
I just want to see Zion with his gigantic man baby body just hustling back down the court.
It's going to be interesting because we're going to have LeBron and him on the court. We're going to have so many opportunities for chase down blocks and also dunks on people, of course. ESPN is just going to be loving that series, that 4-game series, because it's not going past 4 games. That's for sure.
Nah, I could see it going to 5 because Lonzo could have a game where he actually makes threes to bump his 3-point percentage up to 20% for the series.
Yeah, I'm going to call cap on that. Like, Lonzo has just been bricking everything right now. Like, that jump shot is still not fixed. It's still just very, like, herky-jerky. Like, he's still not fluid with it. I don't have confidence in him actually making shots.
I think that game will be 5 series, that series will be 5 games max.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to say. I think it's going to be 4, but yeah, something crazy could happen. It could go 5 games.
I don't know.
That would not be good for the Lakers. They don't want to waste their veteran team. They don't want to be playing any more games.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. I don't know. It's Lonzo's shot's about as broken as Soroka right now.
Oof.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's move to the East real quick. This is very brief. Do you think the Wizards will make that threshold, that 4-game threshold? I think there's 6 games out right now at the moment.
Let me see. They are, oh my gosh, they're 7.5 games out right now.
Yeah, so it's highly unlikely at this point. But do you think there's any chance?
I would say they have about as much of a chance as the Pelicans do of making it to 6 games.
Yeah, it's a tough position for the Wizards. It really is. Like, obviously, they wish they had a full season where they could try to, like, get a little bit closer. But, this is good experience for the young guys. And, like, it doesn't hurt that they have more games, obviously, as long as no one gets hurt.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule. Tonight they lost to Indiana by 11, so that makes them 0-3 so far in the bubble.
So what you're saying is that their only chance is if they actually became Wizards and like started casting spells and crap.
Yes, probably. They have 5 games left, so they'd have to win out, and I think Brooklyn would have to like lose out for them to get in. But they play Philadelphia, New Orleans, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, and Boston. So
yeah, it's not going to happen.
I would bump it up to saying their chance of getting that 8 versus 9 game is about as high as the Pelicans beating the Lakers.
Yeah, that sounds about right for sure. Let's so we really covered the spots, and this will change for sure by next time we have a podcast. But let's kind of take a step back and just look at both conferences as a whole. Is there anything you guys are seeing there standing out right now among any of these teams?
The Raptors have looked really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, their defense has been dominant. Like, they played the Lakers the other night and they just completely shut them down. Now, part of that was Danny Green was just breaking threes. But yeah, the Raptors have been dominant on defense, and then offensively, it seems like one of their 5 starters just keeps stepping up. I think tonight Van Vliet had like 36.
Yeah, he did.
Which I'm so happy because I've always thought Van Vliet's hard to say. He needed to be a starter. I never thought he should have been on the bench. Him and Kyle Lowry together, just it's so hard to guard. Like, you got these quick low guards that can shoot threes and just rain it on you. It's just very difficult for a lot of these teams, especially like a Lakers team where LeBron's playing point guard. Like, you don't want to be chasing Kyle Lowry around and Kyle Van Vliet.
Kyle Van Vliet. We'll see if I can say his name correctly next time.
Say it 5 times fast.
What else have you guys learned so far?
That the Mavericks, like we talked about last week, are horrible at closing out games.
Oh my goodness, horrible.
Yeah, shout out to Q. You said that last week, that they were awesome for the first 3 quarters and then they're just terrible in the fourth quarter, right?
I mean, yeah, anything that's clutch, it's they have no idea what's going on when it comes to crunch time. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, what do you think's wrong with them, Tyler? You blame it on coaching, the players, or?
I think part of it, obviously it's always going to be part of it's coaching, but I think part of it is your main player, your main leader is a young Luka Doncic. Like, there's going to be moments where like there's a lot of pressure on him, and just his young inexperience is going to show a little bit. And like this is kind of truth for all young players. They're never very great closers. Really aren't.
Also, I think another thing that's factored into their losses. I've been reading the last 2-minute reports. The game against Houston, there were 2 blown calls in the last 2 minutes in overtime that went against the Mavericks. And then there was a horrible foul called that Rick Carlisle challenged against the Suns that basically ended the game because the officials decided that even though there was like no contact on a Ricky Rubio step back, they decided it was still a foul.
Yeah, the NBA came out and said there were some missed calls, didn't they?
Right? They came out for the Rockets game. I don't know about the game against the Suns.
Yeah, that's never a good sign when the NBA is coming out and saying like, "Oh, we messed up these calls." You don't want that, but
yeah,
luckily these aren't playoff games, so
yeah,
it's not that big of a deal.
The Mavs already clinched too, and so they're not too worried. But if they clean up some of these issues, that offense is elite. Like, if they could just figure something out, and that could work maybe even 30% of the time, they could come in and upset somebody in the first.
Yeah, I could see that, and they're still fighting for, I think, a better position. I think they could get to 6. I'm pretty sure.
But now the Rockets look like they're on fire too.
I think they're too far out to get the 6th seed now. They're 2.5 games back of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and we got about 4 or 5 games left, right?
They have 6 games left.
They got 6 games. So there's still a chance, but it's difficult.
Yeah, by the time our listeners are hearing this, they'll probably be at 4 or 5 games left, though.
Yeah, so we'll see where they're at that point. Yeah, so the Mavs look very good. The flip side of that, of the really great game they had, the Rockets also looked very good in that game, especially James Harden and Russ. They were just absolutely on fire. I think I mentioned it last week. Like, the Mavs are a better team, but the Rockets, just with Russ and James Harden, they literally can just shoot their way like to the point of winning. Like, just go on streaks and go on fire and just outplay a better team. Just
that's
on
true.
Threes alone, which is crazy.
I think a lot of it has to do with the way the officials are calling the game too, for James Harden at least.
Yeah, there's always these complaints. I think it's warranted. I think James Harden does go to the free throw line a lot more than the average player, and he does get some calls. You're like, yeah, those are a little softs.
But there's a skill that's attributed to that. Yeah.
It's just his style of play, and props to him for doing it and creating himself into a superstar with today's NBA rules.
Yeah, you have to credit James Harden. Like, as much as fans like complain about how his game is like, he dribbles so much, he jacks up threes, he always gets these foul calls. Like, it really works for him though, and it's really hard to guard on a regular basis. It's really hard to stop.
Yeah, because he's like, his game is literally to draw a foul unless he's shooting a 3 for the most, usually, unless he's shooting a three.
Free throws are part of the game for a reason, man.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's just more than him just getting points. Like you're getting a chance for your guys to rest, and also you're putting the other team in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Like it's such a smart strategy.
I mean, Luka fouled out against him, so
yeah, exactly. That's probably one of the things like I was talking about. Like Luka with his inexperience, like he point guards should never be in a position where they're getting close to fouling out. Usually it's big men, but he, as a leader and the star player, like he can't be fouling out in games. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think with the way these games have been called so far, there have been a lot of players fouling out. Like Devin Booker had 5 fouls last night before the halfway point of the third quarter.
Yeah, I think the main theme of everything we've learned so far from the NBA is there's been a lot of foul calls. Like the refs have definitely been whistle happy for sure. And then there's some teams standing out, but it's just we still have a lot to learn. I feel like we're going to know a lot more at the end of these 8 games for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that does it for NBA. We're going to keep everyone in touch with what's going on throughout the week on Twitter and Instagram. And we'll obviously have a recap next week, but that's kind of what's been going on in NBA.
Well,
I think,
can we talk about Michael Porter real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
The last thing we want to talk about for the NBA, Michael Porter Jr., he went off the other night against the Thunder in a big overtime win for the Nuggets. He scored a career high 37.
Wow.
And he had 12 rebounds. I read he's the first player to do it since the Nuggets since Melo back in the day.
Yeah, we're starting to see why everyone thought Michael Porter Jr. was going to be special. Like it's taken a long time because of his injuries, but he is definitely a talent. We'll be keeping an eye on him and some of these other young players that have been playing well, and we'll be recapping that in the next couple of weeks. I think we're gonna move on to MLB now. Q, you want to tell us the elephant in the room, the main story of the week that everyone's been talking about?
Oh, Yoenis Céspedes. Dude just said, I'm out of here. Granted, he wasn't having that great of a start to the season at all. He was performing pretty badly, but I mean,
he was hitting 161 with 2 home runs in 8 games.
Right, and that's the anchor in that lineup, though. And so for him to just randomly not even show up and not even notify anybody, and I mean, a lot of the players, from what I'm seeing, they didn't even know that he opted out. They had no idea. They just got the notification late into that game, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we just lost the anchor of our lineup for the rest of the year." So he just straight up left and bailed.
Just imagine like just the emotions of everyone. Like all of a sudden, you're hearing like, right before the game, like Yoenis has not showed up. No one can contact him. No one knows where he is. Like imagine trying to play a game after that. Like you could be concerned about your teammate's safety. Like,
right.
You don't know what's going on at all.
It's pretty messed up, man. It's pretty messed up. But I mean, also, it's the Mets.
Yeah.
They're a train wreck of an organization. And, oh man, they're basically Murphy's Law attributed into a team. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong for the Mets. And they're just a nightmare waiting to happen. So, I mean, I in my opinion, he probably just opted out because he wants out. So,
yeah, I think that's what it looks like. It's like he didn't show up, and then all of a sudden there's pictures of him at the mall. So it's like, what message are you sending? Like, you're obviously like it's not really a Corona thing because you're going out to the mall and you're not really being safe. So is it really like you just don't want to play for the Mets this year?
Right, exactly. No, yeah, that's got to be something like that, man. I mean, they're just not performing very well anyways. I mean,
they're 3-7 right now.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Not good. That kind of brings us to so they're 3-7. what's going on with some of the other teams in the league, just record wise, and like how are some of these teams playing? Who's standing out? Who's not doing well? Just kind of
for sure.
Tell me what's going on.
For sure. The main player that's standing out this week in particular is definitely Aaron Judge. He is on an absolute tear right now. He just had, in the last 5 games, he's had 6 home runs, 13 RBIs, and a 368 average. And the guy has been tearing the leather off the baseball. And it's just been otherworldly. He is looking right back to that MVP caliber year that he had. What year was that? 2017, Cody?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's just, he looks exactly like the same guy he was. And on top of that, Stanton is healthy and locked in. They're both healthy, and that's the biggest thing. The Yankees are off to a 7-1 start at this point, and they're just looking better and better. And they may be the favorite to win it all if the Dodgers can't get players like Bellinger and Turner and Peterson going. I mean, Mookie's performing, but he just got hurt, so they look like they're going to be the favorite team in the entire league. So
wow.
Yeah, and on top of that, with Aaron Judge, I heard on the radio today that he's joined, it was either 2 other players in baseball history or 2 players in Yankee history with the kind of tear he's on. Those 2 players, they're just Alex Rodriguez and Babe Ruth.
Yeah, that's just minor company.
Yeah.
It's just minor. Some of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, one of the greatest players of all time and one of the greatest cheaters of all time.
Mm-hmm. Whoa. Enough.
A-Rod, yeah.
Speaking of which, we just talked about the Mets. Isn't A-Rod about to buy them?
I haven't seen a lot more updates on that, but I know a lot of people are just angry at A-Rod right now because of the stuff that he was doing at the beginning with the COVID talks. He was working from a very actually a good publicity before this season came around, and now people are just trashing him all over again. It seemed like he almost brought his reputation back, but now that he took the ownership side and really just kind of trashed the players before the season started, and just kind of went full on owner mode on him. There's not a lot of people that really have his support right now, and if he buys the Mets, they're just going to be a train wreck anyways. Because I wouldn't trust A-Rod leading my team.
Yeah. Hey, Quentin, let's get an update from the only other team in baseball that has 1 loss right now, the Miami Marlins. Do you have anything new on them?
Oh, man. Just more and more COVID. They're still at 17. Still at 17 total players.
They're still postponed, right?
Yeah, they're still postponed. There's really not a real update that you can go off of other than, like, they're not going to play for a little while. And you're going to see a lot of doubleheaders. If we get to finish baseball, you're going to see a ton of doubleheaders. I mean, that leads right into the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are just bad. I mean, how do you – they have 13 players that just tested positive. And how do you do this as a major league team? Now, these are just rumors, and I don't know if the rumors are true, but from a lot of high-ranking baseball people, I've seen that they hold a lot of weight. And it's that the players went out and partied or went out to casinos and stuff like that. And it's like, how can you be that selfish when you know your entire game's on the line right now?
Yeah, it's like I think the Marlins and now the Cardinals, like they both had reports of like going out to clubs or going out to bars and stuff. It's just like, yeah, you can't be doing that, especially when like your paycheck's on the line too.
Yeah,
like, why would you risk that? Honestly.
Yeah, and you're seeing Fauci come out and say that baseball's in trouble, and Rob Manfred saying that the season may not get to finish and stuff like that. And other leagues have spent over a month getting ready for to have a bubble, and they're in a bubble right now, and things are going great. You're going to go out and ruin that by going to a bar or club or casino or whatever.
Especially when the players are the one that turned the bubble down. I mean, If you look at it, they're the ones that said, we don't want to leave our families and we don't want to be away. I mean, why would you vote that down and then turn around and ruin it for the other players? There's going to be players, especially if the season gets canceled, and I don't know what's going to happen with pay and things like that. That's for a discussion later if this starts coming up. But But I mean, you're putting these players that are fringe roster players at risk for losing their entire livelihoods, and these fringe roster guys don't make very much comparison to these superstars.
Yeah, and you're like, I think Mike or Carl Yastrzemski, whichever one's currently playing for the Giants. I forgot his name.
Carl Yastrzemski was his dad. That's the legend.
Okay. Well, Mike, like, you could potentially be ruining the best year of his career. He's off to a terrific start, and ending this, like, he's an old player for a seasoned young guy. It's weird. Like, he's one of these guys that came up late and spent a long time in the minors, and so it's ruining a lot for him. You're taking this year away from him when it could be a breakout year, and it's going to mess up stuff with his contracts and stuff, because he could be in for a big jump in pay in the future.
Yeah, I mean, he's 30 years old. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with this guy from this point on? I mean, this may be his only chance to actually bank in, and there's just countless of cases around like that around the MLB right now, and just putting that at risk is just so utterly selfish. It's insane.
Yeah, it's seriously just a selfishness, and I think if the season gets canceled, other players are just going to start calling each other out.
If it was up to me, I would. You can't really tell what Manfred's going to do. The guy is off his rocker. But if I was them, I would start imposing fines and start imposing suspensions. I mean, either kick him out or do something. It's just it seems unfair to punish the rest of the sport for players acting stupidly. And so
it just, all this kind of just goes back to, it seems like there's no plans in place. Like I said last week, it's just like there is no plans. Okay, these teams start getting infected. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do when people are breaking the rules? Like, none of that. It's like Manfred and the leadership is just like, oh, we're just going to do this on the fly. We'll figure it out. Major League Baseball is a airplane without a pilot. It's on a full nosedive straight into freaking Mount Rushmore. It's just insane, dude. I've never seen this much inept leadership out of any sport, next to maybe Roger Goodell at times.
Yeah, I was about to say the NFL's been pretty bad. Seems like they don't really have much of a plan either so far.
Yeah, but they're going to learn from the MLB's mistakes.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not going to be as bad, hopefully.
Yeah,
if there's
maybe.
someone not going to learn, it might be Roger Goodell.
Yeah, so not only are the corona cases and just the whole season is a disaster from that perspective, it seems like it's been a disaster with just injuries too.
Oh, for sure. Oh man, there's injuries all over the place. Last episode we went off on a whole list. It was honestly felt like we were reading a 50-page book of just injuries after injury after injury, and we just got more and more. I mean, Shohei Ohtani's hurt. That's big for Texas teams in the division. He hurt his flexor rotator mass. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'm not a doctor, but he cannot throw for 4 to 6 weeks, and so he's gonna be on his day-to-day schedule for DHing. And so honestly, especially with the way he came back and started pitching, I don't know if he's actually even going to be a pitcher ever again at this point.
Yeah, if I were the Angels, I would just move him to right field, DH, and not really worry about him. That's what TCU did a while back with Luken Baker. He was a stud on the mound, but he kept getting hurt, so they converted him to first baseman, and he still kept getting hurt. But
there's a reason that nobody can be a two-way player like that anymore. Like, it's just, man, because they were calling him the Japanese Babe Ruth, and the guy just, he was insane when he came in, and he looked like he was going to be a superstar, but it's just, you just can't hold on to your arm like that when injuries are bound to happen, especially with a guy as big as he is.
And the way the MLB is now, it's so taxing on players just to pitch one inning, it's taxing on them.
Yeah.
But when you take into account pitching multiple innings every 5 days plus batting every 2 or 3, it's even more thoughts, more things you have to go through, and a higher chance of injury.
I'm going to run through a couple things real quick more on the Angels here. Jose, or dang it, not Jose, Albert Pujols. Sorry about that. Albert Pujols is about to be on today for history. He's getting close to is it Hank Aaron numbers? No, it's Willie Mays numbers. There we go. He's getting close to Willie Mays numbers on the home run board. And Mike Trout just had baby Trout, so you can look for the first overall pick in about 30 years.
30?
No, not 30. Yeah, 20. Maybe 18.
Golly, that's a little late.
Yeah, I was going to say, that'd be a weird time frame.
Mike Yastrzemski.
Yeah, Mike Yastrzemski. Yeah. But sticking in the AL West here, let's transition over to some Rangers and some Astros news. Cody, you got anything?
Yeah, the Astros yesterday just put one of their best relievers, Roberto Osuna, on the injured list. I think that's a pretty big blow for their bullpen. They've kind of had trouble with injuries. The Rangers have too. I think yesterday or maybe Saturday they went and put Danny Santana on the injured list. But I don't think Santana's injury is that serious.
It's not as serious as like the blows to the other players like they've had so far.
Yeah, like earlier today, Mike Soroka went down with an injury. It looked like his Achilles popped, so that's not good for him or the Braves.
Yeah, that was a really nasty injury. Yeah, going back, staying in the AL West though. Honestly, I think Joey Gallo, we are seeing a budding superstar right before our eyes. The guy has been recently he's been on a tear. His batting average is up to 310 now. His OPS is over 1,000, and he has a 429 OBP. And I mean, if you look at his numbers last year when he was healthy and what he was trending towards, those were MVP caliber numbers.
Yeah, Gallo's definitely turned it around since his slow start to the season, but that was also because of the positive COVID test he had.
Yeah, for sure. He's working also with like 2 weeks less of time to prepare for this whole year. So what he's doing is incredible. I mean, I saw a stat today. It was listed on Twitter by John Blank, very high-ranking person in the Rangers. All three of Joey Gallo's home runs in 2020 have been hit by left-handed pitchers. He has 26 home runs versus left-handed pitchers since the start of 2018, 2 more than any other player in the MLB since that time frame.
Yeah, he's been insane. I saw today that he's tied, I think, for 10th in the American League in WAR. And sticking with the Rangers, Lance Lynn is, I believe, 8th in WAR, which is pretty impressive for a pitcher.
I mean, he's been incredible for his first 2 outings. Next to Shane Bieber, he's looked like the most complete pitcher in the baseball so far. Now, I don't know if he'll be able to keep that up, because Lance Lynn's been known to put up a couple stinkers every now and then, but the dude's an absolute workhorse.
Yeah, it's nice to know we have a guy that's going to go out every time, turn through the rotation, and be able to put up probably 6 innings. And at times he can be dominant. At times, he's going to get you at least through 5 innings. It may not be pretty, but it'll be some innings,
and he's going to pitch. He's going for Bartolo Colon belly there.
Oh yeah, that beard's looking nasty too.
Yeah, it is. One more.
Let's jump to the Astros real quick. They've rebounded nicely since the series sweep since being swept by the Dodgers and only scoring 4 runs in those 2 games. They've scored at least 6 runs in their series against Seattle in every game against them. So it looks like that offense is starting to come to life now. Everybody besides the main core still.
We still got Springer, Altuve, and Bregman still haven't got it together. But other than that, I mean, Brantley has been going off. The problem with the Astros is I don't know how everything's going to hold up for them, because they're relying on 13 total rookies right now, 10 of which are pitchers, especially with Osuna and Verlander out. That leaves Presley as the only vet left in the pen. So there's a ton of uncertainty right now, especially in the bullpen side of things. So that's a long road to go with a bunch of rooks on the mound.
Yeah, another thing to note is Carlos Correa is turning it around. He's hitting 333 now on the year.
Well, that's impressive. I figured he would start turning it around. You could tell a lot of those bats early in the year that they were just angry.
Yeah,
people were giving
especially
them so much
that
crap.
Dodger series.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now they're just took a deep breath and they're starting to get it together. Bregman's the highest hitting of their main core right now. He's hitting 211.
Yeah, that's definitely a turnaround from what he was. So.
Yeah. I think you can expect Bregman, Springer, and Altuve to all turn it around. I think Altuve will definitely turn it around because even before, even back when the Astros were horrible and losing like 100 games a season, Altuve was hitting over 300. So I think there's a good chance he can turn things around.
They're definitely going to need it, especially with the rotation and the bullpen the way it is. But yeah, that's about all we got for baseball today. You want to roll over to something else?
Yeah, I think we decided we're going to start implementing some segments in here to break things up. So we're going to have a little non-sports segment right now to just kind of break up the monotony. Q, you want to start us off?
Yeah. Welcome to Texas Man of the Week. This is where we pull up some crazy Texas man story that happened during the week that we were doing each one of these. And now it could be any week in history of Texas. It's just going to be something crazy, some crazy headline that found out during that time period. Since in this week we got here's the headline. It's a post by Fox News. And it says, Texas man held hostage by coworkers, offered grilled cheese, police say. This one's really funny because I didn't know when I was reading this, the guy that did this has the same exact last name as me, and he may be related to me.
It was actually Quentin's brothers that went to do it.
Oh, I hope not. It does. I don't have a brother named Jeremy.
Right.
As far as you know, you don't.
Let me read a brief synopsis about this real quick, though. So 4 people in Texas allegedly committed possibly one of the strangest crimes, holding a man gunpoint Sunday. It was August 7th, 2019. They then offered him a grilled cheese sandwich, according to police. Jeremy Radford, Thomasine Radford, Jameson Nezacheb, and William Swan were arrested on charges of aggravated kidnapping. The victim and the 3 suspects worked together, and while holding the man at gunpoint, the suspects allegedly searched through his phone while demanding answers to a work-related issue. The hostage incident stemmed over allegations and comments made by the victim about one of the co-workers. When the victim was released, he was reportedly offered a grilled cheese sandwich for his troubles. No description of the sandwich was given.
Did he accept the sandwich, though? That's what everyone wants to know.
It's unended.
I would like to know how the grilled cheese tasted.
That's what I'm saying. How long did they take on this grilled cheese? Now, when you got somebody at gunpoint, where are you cooking the grilled cheese?
It's like, hey, let me put some butter on the grill real quick. Hold on 1 second. Let me just get the sandwich ready.
It was like that Alexa
I'm
commercial.
surprised. What's up?
It was like that Alexa commercial. Hey, Alexa, how do you make a grilled cheese? And Chef Ramsay's there. The name is in the recipe.
I'm just really scared that these are my family members that I don't even know.
Yeah, they need to be a little bit calmer, eat some grilled cheese, get some soup with it, not rob these stores. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, man. There's going to be many, many more Texas stories just like this one. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're going to try to give the Florida man a run for his money.
I think we can. I think Texas is starting to get there.
Yeah.
But let's transition back into sports after that little break. We're going to talk some college football. And college football, there is really just a lot going on just all over the place. So we've had updates from the Power 5 conferences of kind of what they're going to do. Just earlier today, Monday, Big 12 announced kind of how they're going to structure their conference. But right now, going through the Power 5 conferences, we got the ACC is going to play 10 conference games and 1 out-of-conference game. The SEC is going to go all conference and play 10 games. The Big 12, who announced earlier, they're going to go 9 conference games and then 1 out-of-conference game. And then the Pac-12 and Pac-10 are going conference only, but I don't think we know how many games they're going to play at this point. So it's really interesting. Like, first of all, these teams are not really on the same page how many games they're going to play. And then some are playing out of conference, some are not. So it leaves a lot of question marks. Like, what's going to happen with the postseason? Like, are we going to have conference championship games? Are teams going to have to play a certain amount of games to kind of like be qualified if we even have championship games? There's stuff like what's going to happen to the smaller conferences, and like, what are they going to do? Are they going to follow the Power 5 conferences leads and go mostly conference only? And then there's questions just like, what's going to happen to the independent schools like BYU? Like, what are they going to do now? Because everyone's canceling out of conference. Like, are they going to join a conference like Notre Dame? What's going to happen with that? Cody, like, what do you think when you first hear about these reports of these conferences going conference only?
I think it's pretty interesting, especially with what the Big 12 did with their one non-conference game, because now that's going to basically throw a wrench into like Texas had LSU scheduled. They're not going to be able to play that game because of how the SEC is structuring their schedule. So UT is going to have to go and probably look for a group of 5 team or maybe an FCS team for the first time in forever.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, too, what's going to happen with the FCS. The main conferences in the FCS, like the Southland, we still don't know what's going to happen with them. We still don't know if they're playing a full season, if they're going conference only. I imagine, though, the Power 5 conferences' decisions are going to weigh heavily on them. So they're probably leading a little bit towards conference only. But
well, I don't know if they're going to go conference only, because a lot of their teams make really good money off of playing against FBS teams. So I think that they'll probably go to like what the Big 12 did with 9 conference games and 1 non-conference games, just so their teams can go in and get some extra money, because they're going to lose money this year.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of programs losing money this year, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I think getting back to the FCS, the hard thing is like who's available for these out of conference games. Like the D2 schools are basically not playing, so you can't play down. The schools that you can play up are really just kind of the non-Power 5 schools and then the independent schools.
Well, you can play Big 12. Like my alma mater is scheduled to play a Big 12 school, so.
Do you think they would use that one game on FCS teams, or do you think they would just play good FBS teams?
I think they'd use it on an FCS team just so they can get warmed up for conference play, because more than likely a school like Texas Tech isn't going to be playing Kansas to open up the season.
Well, Kansas is in the same conference.
No, that's what I mean. They're not going to get that cupcake game to start the season in Kansas.
Oh, right.
I just feel like the scheduling is going to be so weird this year, especially with their. I mean, is there going to be a ranking structure? Is there going to be anything like to actually like decipher who the better teams are? There's going to like, what are they going to do with all this? You know, especially like, opting out.
How am I as a Texas fan going to know if Texas is back? Like, I need to know when we were high up in the rankings when we shouldn't be up there. Like, come on now.
Well, you'll get real high in the rankings, and then you'll find a way to lose to inferior teams.
There's one bright side to all this. We don't have to play Maryland's. It doesn't have to happen. Let's go.
Don't you have to go to Kansas, though?
That's true. We hopefully this year we don't lose to Kansas. But golly, I hope we don't. If we lose to Kansas, I might have to start looking for a new team. I might, with that and Shaka Smart just driving me insane. Hey, Texas, I might have to start looking for a new school.
Texas forever, Tyler.
We'll see. It's getting a little tough.
Texas A&M's in a pretty interesting spot. It looked like they had a good chance of being, I think, 10-0 heading into that game against either Alabama or LSU. Now that the schedule's mixed up, how are you feeling about them, Tyler?
Well, I haven't seen what their schedule is going to be yet. I haven't actually seen that, but hopefully they don't go 10-0. I would love to not see that happen. I don't know. It's kind of going to be up in the air like every other team. they really can't come in with any high expectations. They just kind of have to come in neutral. Like, it's going to be a weird event every single week. It's not going to be like normal games.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Q.
Yeah. I was just going to add. I truly think that A&M is a sleeping giant. If they figure out how to not lose very, very winnable games, they just have a knack at doing that every single year. It doesn't even matter what season it is.
Yeah, totally. And they got to steal some of these. Like last year, they played against like Clemson and some of these big schools. They got to try to steal a few of these games.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I look at them like they're kind of like a UFC fighter that's like they dominate all the unranked people, but like when they start playing people higher up in the rankings, they can't do it, and they just constantly lose to the elite fighters. It's kind of what Texas A&M is.
Well, their problem is they either play pretty bad teams that they beat, or they play like top tier teams like Clemson and Alabama and get destroyed.
Right.
Yeah, part of it, I think, just it goes to scheduling. Like they can't be playing a bunch of elite teams in a row. Like that's not very smart.
Yeah, and that's the problem with scheduling games so far in advance. Like probably when they scheduled that Clemson game, I don't know when they actually scheduled it, but Clemson was probably like just a top 25 team, not the insane team that we all view them as now.
Yeah, it could have been 5, 6, could have been 10 years in advance. Like some of these go really far back. It's just kind of tough, but it's kind of interesting. We weren't really going to talk about this, but have y'all noticed how easy it is for some of these teams to just kind of like all of a sudden just schedule with another team?
That is true. Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know. I think the scheduling is all thrown off in NCAA anyways, and I think eventually these conferences are going to take over the main aspects of everything. So,
yeah, that's kind of what I was going to lead into eventually. These Power 5 conferences are showing more and more that they're kind of independent of the NCAA, and like I think this is kind of a trial run of. Can they kind of be outside the NCAA and have success? Can they set their own rules? You know, when it comes to the Pac-12, they kind of seem to be the leader in some of these things, especially what's going on with this kind of player situation. Right now, players in the Pac-12 are kind of holding out for a bunch of reasons, from fighting social injustice. Like they want the Pac-12 to be more vocal on that. There aren't really specifics exactly yet, and then there's the players want to get paid. They want to have their rights protected. They want to have long-term health insurance. It's kind of just going to the whole theme of like the NCAA has kind of been holding down these conferences and keeping them in this position where players can't get paid. They're screwed over in a lot of things. Like they're not getting health insurance. They can't sell memorabilia. They can't do all these different things. And like this situation with the Pac-12, if the Pac-12 decides to kind of like give into the demands of these players, it could be the beginning of all these conferences separating from the NCAA.
Well, the players are actually about to start getting paid. The NCAA voted about it a little less than a year ago that players can start getting paid for their name.
Yeah, but it seems like they still don't have like a structure in place of like how that's going to work.
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think at a minimum, you should be able to be allowed to make money off of your namesake. That's crazy that's still a rule. That's such an archaic rule at this point.
Yeah, and I think we could definitely go deep into this topic on another episode, but yeah, I totally understand where these players are coming from, especially with like all Corona going on. Like you want to have insurance if you get sick from Corona doing all this. Like you don't want to be scared and like afraid like you're not going to be able to pay bills or like eat in the middle of a pandemic. Like,
yeah.
I think they're definitely being reasonable. We'll have to see like what the specifics are. These are kind of just broad demands right now. We haven't gotten the specifics and we haven't heard from the Pac-12. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. That's basically it with college football. Do you guys have anything else that pops out to you?
No, I'm good. I do think we could probably do just an entire episode talking about paying college athletes.
For real.
Yeah, I think we could. I know you wrote a paper on it at one point, and I've had to write some stuff on it too. I think we could definitely break down just like why it hasn't happened, and why like it's so difficult. It's not just easy to say like, hey, let's pay the players. Like, there's a lot that has to go into it.
There's one thing that's preventing it from happening: Title IX.
Yeah, and there's that. There's a lot of legal things in place.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely. I think we'll do that at some point. If we don't have a college football season, obviously that'd be a great thing to talk about to make up all the space. But moving on from unprofessional football to professional football, let's talk the NFL this week. So players are coming in for training camp. Basically, they're checking in. They're taking their corona test.
And the mustache has fallen.
The mustache has fallen. If people don't know who that is, I don't know how you don't at this point. Gardner Minshew, the GOAT, R.I.P. He has corona, along with also Matthew Stafford, another obviously notable QB, and then also Doug Peterson, the Eagles head coach. And that's kind of just what we know so far. There hasn't been a lot of reports of who has it yet. There could be more notable names that have it.
There hasn't been a lot of huge names other than those to come out that they've tested positive. I know that the Dallas Cowboys have had 0 tested positive since I believe the last one was Ezekiel Elliott, and that was huge news. But he turned out just fine. And then I don't believe the Texans have anybody by big name that has tested positive either. So that's good news on that front.
Yeah, and in the past, we've had Sean Payton got it. Von Miller had it. Yeah, I think that was kind of the notable names that we have. But as we go along, we're probably going to have more big names come out, like notifying us that they had corona or they got corona, whatever. We'll have head coaches. We'll have training staff. We'll have all this. It'll be like another MLB situation.
Well, if I could add, I mean, it could be a pretty good kind of science experiment if you might go about it on herd immunity and the effects of that, because the amount of players that tested positive in the initial first testing was a mass amount of players. And so, I mean, we don't really know how many more of them can actually get it or not. I mean, it's just, the science is out. And so, I mean, it could go.
Yeah, the problem is like we still don't know if you can get it again.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of why we're behind on that. So, kind of just trying to combat that without like let's say herd immunity is not a choice and completely shutting down the season is not a choice. Like, what do you do if you're the NFL to kind of have a season?
Oh man, move them all to Hawaii.
Football Island, let's go.
Football Island, like we talked about last week.
I'm all for Football Island.
I think them seeing what's going on with the Marlins, like there has to be, obviously, Marlins and MLB, there has to be plans in place, a lot more plans in place than the MLB had, and there needs to be a backup plan. If they start getting a lot of people infected, they probably need to have like a bubble backup plan, like flying everyone to Hawaii.
And we forgot to mention that the Saints, they decided to create their own bubble for the players and coaches this week. And they're going to have, I think, over 100 people in it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think that's a really smart way to go about it.
Yeah, I think all NFL teams should probably look into that, because the NFL players, they're kind of the guys that you want to keep wraps under, because they're real unpredictable guys. Like, so, I'm just going to be honest. Some of them have CTE. So,
oh my God,
they're a little crazy. I'm looking at Antonio Brown when I say that right now.
I mean, are you wrong? No. Are you ethically wrong?
No. Something notable I just read is that the NFL is announcing finable high-risk COVID-19 conduct, including nightclubs.
Really? So they're already doing better than the MLB, just like that. Season hasn't started yet. Look at that.
Yeah, that article just came up on. I just saw it on Yahoo Sports.
Wow, that's big. So it said nightclubs. Is there anything else they said?
Going to clubs, bars, and house parties without PPE.
Oh, so if they wear masks, they're good.
Could you imagine all of them? Dak Prescott throwing another house party that gets publicized, but everybody there's wearing the old school gloves and goggles and face masks.
And they're socially distancing. Like, that would just throw a wrench into things.
Do some social distance grinding.
Yeah, it's just we're in such a weird time, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
Also of note, NFL players they're able to opt out of the season. The deadline for that is going to be this Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So for those of you that are in Texas, that's going to be 3 o'clock local time.
Yeah, and that wasn't original. I think it was next week. I want to say Wednesday. So they've moved it up a little bit, which is, I think for the players is not great. Like, you don't appreciate something like that. You would like to have more time. You like to know that your team is having, know the numbers of your team of who's getting infected and has a positive case. Well, and just also you want to know what your team's doing to stop the virus, and protect the team. You want more time to know all that.
I believe the reason that they moved it up was because a lot of these players that were on the bubble or knew that they weren't going to get or weren't going to make the roster, they were taking this and it's like, hey, that's $150,000 that I could risk going to camp and not making at all if I don't make the team.
That's actually a good point.
And I believe the NFL actually updated it to where if the players are deemed to not be an at-risk player, then it's only $150,000. If they are deemed to be an at-risk player, I believe it's $350,000 of a stipend.
Yeah, and let's make that clear. I'm pretty sure it's not actually their money. It's coming out of their contract next year. It's not like a loan.
Yes, exactly. And so that makes it really interesting in how that's going to work for some of these players that were roster bubble players, and there's been a ton of them that, I mean, honestly, they probably wouldn't make teams. There was a Dallas Cowboys receiver. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's more than likely not going to make the team. And he decided to opt out. I mean, quotation marks, opt out because, I mean, take the free $150,000. I would do the same thing. So
what happens if it's a guy like Adam Vinatieri who opts out and then retires after the sitting out for the season?
Well, first of all, I'm going to cry when that happens. He's the GOAT.
His skeleton's going to be out there kicking field goals.
And he'd still be making them, honestly.
Maybe.
He's the Brett Favre
bad last year.
Yeah, he was down a little bit. Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if we're going to get some big names opt out or if we're going to get any at all. We'll see. But I think the other thing I was thinking was, besides what Q said, I think the NFL could be doing this move update as a way to kind of rip the Band-Aid off quickly. Hey, if you're opting out, do it now. Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to hurt the teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the longer it goes, it's going to hurt the league too. You have every day this person's opting out, and the next day this person's opting out. That's just it doesn't make the league look good, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, another weird 2020 thing that the Texas Rangers had to go through now that the Raiders are going through is that they're going to have to open up the season without fans.
Yeah, Raiders they're setting the precedent. They said oh, we're not doing fans, so I think everyone will follow. I wonder what they're gonna do, because we've seen cardboard fans in the stands. We've seen NBA with their digital fans. I wonder what the NFL is gonna do. I hope it's better than those two, because those two have been garbage, honestly.
Well, the cardboard fans at least have gone. I think teams are donating the money for those to their foundations.
See, that's good. I respect stuff like that.
See, as a viewing experience, I think the two that I've now, since hockey is played too, now I'm not the hugest hockey fan in the world, but I think the ones that look like it got affected the least out of a TV viewing experience was probably MLB and NHL. NBA, it just seems like such a weird like differential from a normal game to me.
Yeah, you have stuff like on the board, like you see people texting on their phones. You see Paul Pierce over there, literally like hand on his head when people are making bad shots. Like it's just such a weird setup with like these digital fans.
Well,
and,
Paul
like,
Pierce could also be crapping his pants.
Yeah, that's true.
And somebody put Dirk Nowitzki up in the up during the Mavs and Rockets game too.
Like, how does one even get on that too? I was wondering that. It's just such a weird dynamic. I think the NFL, they need to do what the European soccer leagues were doing, and they're zooming in the camera so you really couldn't ever see that there was no fans in the stadium, and then they pumped in crowd noise.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's what the MLB's kind of done. Like, it's hard to tell that there's not fans in the stadiums. I mean, other than the obvious cardboard cutouts, but other than that, I mean, you don't see the rest of the stadium very much in a baseball game, you know? So,
yeah, the hard thing is just like when you guys are just hitting dingers out of the park. Like, you can see
it's
how
very
empty
noticeable.
it is.
It's very noticeable when you're watching the Yankees play right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, NFL, it's just like kicking field goals would be the only time. And like, no one's really watching that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for real. I wonder if they're going to use this as a year. I know they already canceled the entire preseason, didn't they?
They did, yes.
So
I thought it was all but one game.
They're doing just one. I thought it was all games, right?
Yeah, it's all games.
Yeah,
I don't
Roger
remember.
Goodell came out for all games.
Yeah, they canceled preseason for all games. I guess it's to minimize as much contact as possible. And I mean, they already added in the extra playoff spot this year to 7 teams instead of 6. And so I wonder if they're going to implement any other weird rule changes or anything like that because of a short season. If they're not a short season necessarily, but what could be a weird altering season that they have to go through.
Yeah, the question you keep having is what happens if like a team gets infected and they have to postpone, just like the MLB. Like, are they going to do double? Well, they're obviously not going to do double headers, but like, what are they going to do? Are they going to play 2 games in 1 week? Like, how are they going to make up the schedule?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have a big task on their hands, probably bigger than pretty much every other sport there is because of the mass amount of people that they have that plays this sport. So.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see what they do. And we've kind of been hitting on this for every sport. Like, they're going to be trying new things that might actually be implemented after all this is done. You know, the NFL, they might start implementing things that are just like the XFL, the other football league that was started this year that tragically had to get cut short. But maybe the NFL will be like, hey, maybe we'll start changing the kickoffs. Maybe we'll start doing some of the rules they have. Maybe we'll start using a lot of mics and other all access things. But
speaking of XFL,
guess
what the XFL is cooking?
Yeah, the Rock today buying into the XFL. How big is that?
That is huge. That is very, very big for that league right there.
Yeah, it's breathing new life into it.
Yeah, I honestly thought it was dead. I think most people were like, this is for sure done. I think it filed bankruptcy, not to the point where like it's completely shut down, but I think they're selling off some of their assets. But yeah, I think now with The Rock's investment, and I'm sure there's going to be other celebrities now because like The Rock is like the GOAT and he has all his friends. He's got Kevin Hart. I'm sure Kevin Hart will definitely come in there. But yeah, it's new life into all this. Maybe The Rock will also have his own cool inputs he'll bring in there. Do you think he'll bring in any cool ideas from like his WWE days or anything like that?
I think if there's one thing The Rock does know, it's got to be entertainment. That dude has transitioned from literally every aspect of media there is, and like entertainment industry. I mean, he's killed it at every level. So, I mean, the real biggest time in WWE was when The Rock was around. You know, so. He definitely knows how to bring fans, and I'm really interested in what he can do for the entertainment aspect of all of it.
Yeah, and I think that's what the XFL really needed. Like, they had a lot of good things going this season, but like some of the teams just did not have a lot of fans showing up to games. It was still very dead. Like, they're in these college stadiums and probably only having about 20,000 fans.
Yeah, for real.
Like, they need to generate a lot more support. They need to, I wouldn't say they need to bring in a lot of theatrics, but just like bring in some unique creative things that make the game more interesting and kind of be a little bit different from the NFL.
Yeah. As long as they're different enough and they can do these weird, quirky things, add on to the quirkiness, of what they had last year, they could really, really be onto something. I mean, when I was watching the games, they were actually entertaining games. It was just not enough differential for me to be like, I want to watch this every single week.
Yeah, they had a good start. I think this time would be really good for them to just like, okay, go to the drawing board. What worked in those 3 or 4 games they played, and then scrap some of the things that didn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. I think there's potential here, especially with the Rock on board. So
for sure. And we kind of we opened this question up to our small group of fans right now. we asked them if the XFL was actually going to survive this third time, because if you remember the first time Vince McMahon came in, I think it was like early 2000s or early 90s. I can't remember exactly, but it was very over the top, very theatrical, and it burned out very quickly. Mm-hmm. And then we had the second one, obviously, this year that was basically, it cut all of that. It still had a little bit of that, but like it was more of just like an NFL alternative, less of like a WWE cross with NFL.
Kind of like a minor league for the NFL almost.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think if they stay in that lane, I think this league could definitely survive. I think this third time could be the charm for them.
I will tell you one person that they need, then they just need to convince them to come back, and that's Johnny Manziel. You get Johnny Manziel, then you have a whole league right there.
Absolutely.
You have the entire state of Texas watching.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, bring back Johnny, and I think there's probably a lot of other players out there that you could bring back. Eddie Lacy's probably out there.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
T.O.'s out here.
Oh my goodness, T.O. would be the greatest person to bring into this league ever. You got mid 40s T.O. out there burning out these youngins and just destroying people. That would be the most entertaining thing. I would tune into that every week just to watch T.O. burn people.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cody.
Another thing with the XFL too, it didn't really fail the second time. I think the virus made it fail. I think it would be back for this coming spring if COVID-19 didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. It was not necessarily their fault that it kind of failed in quotes. Yeah. But yeah, so the poll that we did have up, I think most people thought that they're going to survive. And I think the three of us are on the same page that this league's going to keep going. I hope it keeps going for sure. Yeah. But that wraps it up for all our sports stuff tonight, except for we got one last treat. We thought it'd be great to kind of just cap it off with something just light and fun. For our final segment of the day, we got Idiot of the Week, Sports Idiot of the Week. And every week we're going to nominate someone, each of us or a team of idiots that are just not doing good out in the world, and they're just making their sport look really bad. Me personally this week, I recommend Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's out here basically pushing his anti-vax theories and stuff and his conspiracies in a time where just like people really don't want to hear that, and like honestly nobody asks, and it's just like, dude, like you can try to make your conspiracy things like when this comes up, but it's just like nobody wants to hear when like we're still in the middle of a pandemic and like everyone's freaking out and we're worried about safety, and the cure would be like a vaccine, and you're just out here like, oh, I don't believe in vaccines. I would never take them. It's like, what example also are you setting for your young fans? Like, why would you decide to like come out and do this during this time? It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah, but, it's definitely not a good look for him at this point.
It really isn't. And he's kind of he's had a long just train of just like these stories that are just not good. It'll just be another thing that Twitter roasting for him. He just keeps putting things out in the news that like are so dumb, and he just needs to put that behind him and just like, I wouldn't say be one of those guys just like, oh, just shut up and play basketball, but it's just like, don't say stupid things. It's that simple.
I missed Dwight Howard to put on the Superman cape.
I do too, and I hope we get to kind of see a little bit of that in this playoffs. They need him to play well, for sure.
He's been good for the Lakers this year.
He has. It's a good spot for him. His second time around has been good.
Cody, who's your idiot this week? Who you got?
My idiot of the week's the New York Mets. They've been so bad. They're such a poorly run organization that they had a player just leave without telling them until like their game had already started. Didn't leave a note, nothing. He just left his hotel room all clean when they went in to check, and he said, "Peace out. I'm leaving your horrible team."
Yeah. What does that say about your program that like he doesn't even leave a note? Like, it's just amazing.
Yeah,
there's got to be like a top like 50 weird sports story
in a year of just weird stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
And then the next day, a picture of him at the mall comes up.
Yeah, he's not worried about the virus. He just wants out of the Mets.
Yeah, like, dude, don't you realize like you're opting out of your contract that would help you to buy things at the mall? Like, what are we doing?
Nah, he's good on money.
He's made a ton of money at this point.
But yeah, he probably has made a good amount.
Yeah, he's not worried. He's not struggling.
He's back. He could get more.
Yeah.
Could. But what do you got, Q?
Idiot of the week. My idiot of the week is I was gonna say the St. Louis Cardinals. But I'm changing it to Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred is he's a clown at this point. He has no direction. He hasn't put any plans in place, and it's becoming such a laughing stock almost. And you allow players to do things as the Marlins and the Cardinals have done, and just sit there and blow your entire league without any punishments, without any sanctions, anything like that. And it's terrible.
Do you think he's going to be gone after this year?
I truly hope so, but he will not.
So
doubt it.
That's it for our idiots of the week. We got the anti-vaxxer, we got the stooge and Rob Manfred, and we got the team that's just a freaking joke. We'll run a poll and see who you guys think is the number one idiot of the week. And that wraps up our show. We really covered a lot today, a lot of good topics, and we'll keep expanding on this stuff for sure. But one thing we've been thinking is we're going to be doing a lot of things outside the podcast too. We're going to be having some short videos up on YouTube. Go ahead and follow us on YouTube. One of the first short videos we're going to have this week is we're going to have a breakdown of the MMA fight on Saturday, which should be pretty exciting. And then besides that, Apple Podcast should be up soon. It just takes a little bit longer for that to set up. But we are available on Spotify. We're available on YouTube. We're available on Anchor as well. So really, if you follow us on Twitter and Instagram, there's a link on both sites, and you'll be able to pull up the other social medias, and you'll be able to pull up the sites where you can listen. So just follow that and keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on us for the next couple of days. And we'll be back next week, another Wednesday episode, and who knows what we're going to have what's going to be in store for us is probably going to be a bunch of other crazy things. But yeah, that's it. Peace out, guys.
Yeah, we want to thank all of you for your feedback and stuff. Keep giving us feedback. And also a shout out to Texas Sports Life.